Guys, good evening everyone. Hope you guys all had a wonderful Friday. Hope you guys are all gonna have a great weekend coming up. It's kind of a pretty sunset, but I guess I kind of missed it. But anyway, I actually was out in the garden all day today. That area right here, this area right here, was all brambles. That was all raspberry brambles right on up to this white fence here. So it was 60 degrees today. So I felt like a spring day. So I had to get out here. And this had become so unruly. This was the old garden that I used to use years ago, and then I just kind of let it do whatever it wanted to do. So I've been cleaning this all out, and that now they're back tame behind the white fence, and that's where the raspberries are, back where I wanted them originally to be. Behind that is old containers. They're like all empty containers that need to be cleaned. And then there's the shed, and then between right here there's comfrey that comes up here every year, and then in here is kind of like a compost pile. So that's where I threw all of the brambles that I pulled today and some of the grapevine that I took down. But Jerusalem artichokes grow out of there every year, so there's that. And then I kind of have this little shelf thing here. That's the chicken coop. It's lit up because I still have one light on for them because it still gets cold at night. And then down along here is where I have some herbs that come up every year. I have catnip and pennyroyal, and it's kind of like a cat garden in here. And then I have a lot of catmint here. And then I always plant something in the planter. There's a little toad house, but I guess you could call it a fairy house, I guess. And right here is a witch hazel tree. And this is the greenhouse, and it looks like who did it and ran in there, because I did not close this door. And the raccoons got in, and the wild birds, and oh my goodness, you want to talk about making trouble. Did they ever make trouble in there? I had left it open because when it snows, sometimes the chickens will go in there, and when I'm not using it, I never saw any harm with, letting them go in there to stay out of the snow, and I always clean it every spring anyway, so I figured, heck, why not? But, oh my goodness, I mean, that is just a disaster. Absolute disaster. But anyway, over here is where my grapevines are. There's one there, and then there's one there, and those are Concord grapes, and let me tell you, they make the best grape juice ever. But anyway, there's those. And then in here is the herb garden, where I have let's see, there's the old marshmallow plant there. I have elecampane that comes up in here every year. I have phlox. We have nettle, which, this is crazy. If you look all along the fence line, the nettle is actually still green. Minus 16 last week, and the nettle has bounced back from that without a problem. So I was trying, this grapevine's been here. I started cutting it back this fall because it really, 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 really went out of control. It was growing all over everything, so we ended up having to cut it back. But my plan had been to make a living wall out of it, and it did work. It took like 12 years, but it worked, and it went all the way up and around. And the triangle here is from when I used to have baby chicks. It would be a way to put them where they would be safe, where the adult chickens couldn't peck them, until they got, acclimated or big enough to fend for themselves. And that was where they would go during the day, so they had like kind of a run. That's what that was. And it kind of got walled in here over the years, and I just have not found a way to get it back out. So there it sits. But anyway, over here there's echinacea planted, and soapwort, and horehound, and wormwood, and rue. And we have all kinds of things that come up here in the summertime, but it really needs to be cleaned out because I've kind of let it grow out of control the past couple years. So this has gotten out of control, and so has the other area that I showed you. So today I was coming out here and just cutting all the unruly things. I left the marshmallow because there were some seeds on the plant, so I was just kind of letting them drop and let it self-seed. But anyway, yeah, it was so beautiful out all day, so I was outside all day, and you can see one of the chickens right there looking at me. Hi, little girl. She's an old hen. She doesn't even get up on the roost anymore. She's like 10. So anyway, yeah, so that's what's going on. I hate using the heat lamps, but when it gets this cold at night, because they're old, they really don't like the cold at all. So I, leave at least one light on for them. That is the woodlot up there. That when I'm walking around in the woodlot, that's where I'm at. That's back in here. And then you see the car going down the road. That's the road. And then there's the farm on the other side of the road. And the road is what you hear. It was so pretty a few minutes ago. I love this tree. Every now and then we get a barred owl who likes to take up residence in that tree. Haven't seen him in a while though. Some really, really old apple trees. They still produce apples, but I kind of got lax on the pruning, and now it's just so high I need a bucket truck to do anything about it these days. Now we're out back, and there's that unruly container garden that I really have got to clean up. We've got the coolers. More containers. Another cooler. Clyde and Sweet Pea's chicken coop. I still left the extra blankets on because they said it was going to be windy tonight. So that blocks the wind. So I figured, hey, why not? I'll just leave it for them. And then there's our property line is that. You see the stone wall fence? That's our property line there. And then this is our cousin's house down there. But our property line goes all the way to the bushes by the garage. Theirs goes it's weird. Because this was the original homestead here, and that's all family. All the way down the road is family. So this one went the furthest because this was the grandparents' house. And they actually had greenhouses down where the new garlic patch is. They used to have greenhouses there. So that's why this piece of property goes all the way up to where those bushes are. And then the bushes up to the tree, then the other tree, and then the house is the cousin's property. So we have this huge front yard, but the problem is we have these mature trees and just don't want to cut them down because it's kind of like a wildlife refuge, There's the tractor. One of them. Going down toward the garlic patch. this was a berry farm years and years ago. This whole right where I cleaned out, this was all like, oh gosh, weeds like you wouldn't believe. And I cleaned all this out this fall and made a new garden here. But this whole area right here in front of that garage, from the tree all the way up to here, was a berry farm years ago. Sadly, there are none left, but... So this is the new garlic plot here. And just wanted to walk it down to the derelict lot down here because Deborah Christmas had mentioned guerrilla sowing, where like in the city they would take an old abandoned lot and you want to look at wildflowers or you want to attract pollinators, you could plant flowers where the weeds were, and it was called guerrilla sowing. And I thought about doing that with this piece of land down here, because this whole thing, starting, it goes all the way up to the pine tree there. On the other side of the pine tree is our property, but from the pine tree all the way down to the property I'm going to show you is this lot that is bank owned, because the house went through Hurricane Irene years ago and it got that black mold. Here there's a dump pile, and then you'll start seeing all the garbage. There's all this garbage in the backyard here. And a woman had bought it right after it had flooded. It went up for, the woman who had lived there stopped paying the taxes on it, went up for tax sale, and this woman bought it, and she drug all these bins and garbage back in here. I don't know if you can see them, but that whole clearing has like all these bins, and she just kept dragging these bins in, and they ended up being composting in worm bins. And she brought guinea hens in, but she didn't have, as you'll see, there's the house, she didn't have anywhere to put them, figuring that they would roost in the trees, and unfortunately something killed them all. It was complete carnage. It was tragic. It was horrible. And yeah, she ended up moving away like right after that. Never did anything with the house. The bank foreclosed on it, and here it sits. And every year, the past 3 years, it's just nobody's been here at all, and it just keeps growing up. And it's very odd because the bank, well, I mean, I shouldn't say nobody's been here, because the bank comes and checks on it, and there's something that lights up over there. Can you see that little light by the porch there? But I did check with the town, and they said it's bank owned, and unfortunately because of the mold, it's really a tear down. There's nothing you can really do with it, because it just, I guess the whole thing is that toxic mold, so it's got to actually be torn down. But I figured maybe I could do something, like plant some flowers. I mean, there's a lot of trees and a lot of shade here, but I figured maybe I could, find a way to plant some wildflowers maybe in here, or like the front yard, which I'll show you the front yard. And the stream is on the other side of the house, and the stream jumped its banks and completely flooded everything. It was crazy. My other neighbor's coming home, probably wondering what the heck I'm doing out here. But yeah, this is the house. So it's kind of a really it's at least, I think, 3.5 acres I think goes with it. And yeah, this whole thing is all nothing but weeds. All summer long, it's nothing but weeds, which is crazy. And you can see I'm trying to walk up the driveway, and it's been kind of wet.